With a company like Wizards of the Coast always looking for fresh revenue streams, it should come as no surprise that a product they already control, like Secret Lairs, can now tap into part of the void inside the market space. In today's video, we are going to discuss the Secret Lair Commander deck phenomenon that we're starting to see. We will discuss the value these products may hold to players in the future and what you can look forward to from future products of this product line. Apparently it's raining cats and dogs and a lot of money for Wizards of the Coast, and that's no joke, which is why we have to talk about it. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. Now, it started for me when I looked at Commander Masters. The popularity of the Sliver Tribal Commander deck was through the roof. People were buying those playsets of all four of those commander decks. They singled out the Eldrazi and, of course, the Sliver decks. Very popular across a wide range of Magic players. And at a higher price point than we were used to paying. Now we fast forward into 2024. They know they had success, and Wizards of the Coast has now brought the product line to a new level. A new echelon of costs, productivity, and value to the company Wizards of the Coast, and of course for Hasbro. When they announced the Angel Secret Lair deck, and I myself have an Angel Commander deck that I love, the idea that you could buy an entire, fairly decent Angel Commander deck, all put together, ready to go with some unique new artwork for the price of $149.95 US. It may have been a steep price, but players didn't have to put the whole thing together themselves. It was ready to buy and play out of the box at a fairly decent price point and value for the cards inside. It's very interesting. I myself did not buy that Angel Commander deck, but I know lots of people who did. And when you look on their website and you see it's sold out, I have players even now that I know saying, I wish I had bought that. I should have sprung for that. That lets you know and lets the company know there is interest. Every time somebody clicks on that page to see what's going on, it shows an uptick in the interest of that particular product, even if it's sold out. So now we get to the next one, and I find this one very interesting because I myself am interested in dogs and cats. Who isn't? We're human. We love our little furry friends. And the idea of doing a dogs and cats commander deck. I know a lot of people who built it with Siri and them, whatever those cards are, the dog cat one together. I remember getting those as the promo box toppers. I have a playset I got when I bought my case. And I built a starting deck of Commander, and I can only see where players would take it. I never finished mine. But when you look at other dog-cat tribal decks and what people have put together, you can see how Wizards of the Coast can take that idea of what they see created already in the market space. Cards and IP they already control. And they can warp that, meld that, create that into a competitive commander deck. Yeah, it might be missing cards like a Taiga and stuff, but that allows players to either sample it, adjust it later, new cards can get added, but they get to tap into that revenue stream and the popularity of a tribal deck. Now, this is something we've talked about before. Let me show you this first image here. Let's talk about the Raining Cats and Dogs. It says here, Raining Cats and Dogs is a complete 100-card commander deck themed around cats and dogs. To be announced. Cards have new art to be announced. They're reversible, cats and dogs on each other's side. Every basic land features cat and dog art from the person Danner. The reprints with original art have their original card face. They can be identified, blah, blah, blah. You see the price again? $149.95 USD. Printed in English only. Limited print run. Limited! Remember that. Limited. Okay? So now you think of that limited print run. Now, when we take a look at the Commander deck, do you remember this Sliver 1, Sliver Swarm, and what happened to Sliver Hive? Do you guys remember? Because it's right here for you. Look at that spike where it went above 40 bucks when people found out that Sliver Hive wasn't in the deck. I want you to take that moment and remember, Sliver Hive was not in that deck. Now, in the case of the Cats and Dogs decks and the various tribal decks I've looked at online that have all kinds of cats and dogs created decks. I don't see any major loopholes that allows Wizards to not put in some pretty awesome stuff into that deck. So will there be value there? Absolutely. As much as I hate to see Wizards of the Coast make this kind of revenue from these kinds of decks, it is definitely an avenue the company is going to walk the line on because they are going to be popular. They've announced they're going to be limited, which will definitely attract a certain clientele to buying those products. And the cards they put in, the Sliver Tribal one, followed by the Angel deck, they've got a good kind of pattern here going. Yes, the mana bases are kind of weak, but you can always work on those. You can augment those and tweak them later. And in some cases, very minimally, it's needed. And when you look at the Reigning Cats and Dogs and the variety of decks, most of the cards aren't super expensive. It's not going to hurt their IP that much, but it's definitely going to allow the company to tap into revenue they didn't have before at a minimal expense. And that's where a company's standpoint is going to be. They're glad they can make it something we like because it means they can continue on this path of creating new, centralized, tribal-themed commander decks, which I'll be honest, I do expect those things, pardon me for a second guys, I do expect those things to come around more often. We know in the old days they did goblins versus elves like the Clash Pack decks, right? Well, these seem to be single commander decks at a much higher price point than those decks ever were, and allows the company to sell individual commander decks directly to the consumer base at a premium price point. Remember, there's not much of a middleman here if it's from Secret Lair, is it? It's just their shipping costs. And they're going to now kind of pre-print this stuff to kind of meet the demand. They kind of know where it's going to be, because after something sells out and players try to buy it, they can see how much secondary market movement goes on, and it can determine going forward how the company wants to increase or decrease a print run. But if they continue on this theme, there's a couple things players need to consider. Number one, even if there are fairly decent mana bases that get reprinted, the mana bases will become more common and more easily affordable. Everything's going to have a command tower. There's basic lands are always going to be there, but it makes it a lot easier for commander players who are new to have the mana base they need to build any competitive deck using those colors that came in that pre-boxed commander deck. They're not going to be the really cheap low-end ones that come into play tapped and give you a life. They're going to be some of these $3 and $4 lands. I think that's excellent. I think it's excellent. It allows for a lot of opportunity for players coming in to compete at a slightly higher level without a massive, steep price increase of buying individual cards. You also allow players to try out some tribal themes that allow players to enjoy something they want to try with maybe not buying every single card and waiting a year to put it all together. I like the idea of all this. As much as I hate the price point still, because it goes directly into Wizards' pocket, and I still say these kind of things should have ended up on store shelves, I understand how people are going to feel about an even further price increase if it went through a middleman. So of course not. But could they have marked it down to $100? They would have seen a lot of increased sales, but I think they understand where their market space is. But that mana base being easily and readily available for players in the future and decreasing overall mana costs at the secondary market level is something very interesting I think players need to consider. Now, creature types. Getting all these dogs and cats and creatures, they're going to be singular. You're not going to see a big upswing on that. But if Wizards sees an increase in the popularity of decks like this, it does allow them to create secondary market cards that can come out in other sets that will directly tie into pre-existing commander decks. So if they see a cat and dog thing they see goes off really well, Reigning Cats and Dogs, great name by the way. They see this go off very well. You can imagine 2 years from now, you get some supplementary product or some kind of premium product like a Modern Horizons 4 type set that has some cards that will tie into individual commander decks, because that will make it more popular to be purchased by those players. It increases the secondary market value of those cards, and because it'd be 2 years since the Reigning Cats and Dogs deck, commander deck, came out, it may have waned in popularity. This will increase the popularity, and they can possibly bring it around again in some different iteration. There's a lot of ways and a lot of avenues the company can take to increase the marketing and increase the visualization of how this product is perceived by the people who have bought it, as well as new players who may want to get into that product. It's kind of crazy to think about, but you can see how from a marketing standpoint, the company stands to win on so many levels, and we, the consumer, get cheaper mana base, cards we want to play with, don't have to worry so much about jumping into spending thousands of dollars trying to build up a whole bunch of crazy cards in our deck. We get a nice, fairly competitive, predetermined deck. And I think in the case of the cats and dogs, since most of the cards I saw that people are using in these decks right now for Commander, when you look at those cards being played out and the way Wizards puts it together, they're probably going to pick a lot of the most popular cards. They're going to pick a lot of things that will be added in. Will you see a Great Henge and stuff? I don't know, because that's a pretty expensive card, and maybe they're not going to include that because they want you to see the increased value by buying it on the secondary market, which of course skews things forward for the Great Henge to be used in later products. That kind of stuff is Wizards being greedy and understanding their market space. I don't know if they'll put it in, but they could. They didn't put in the Sliver Hive, but they could put some of these other cards in. And we don't know how new they're going. Are they going to put some of the cards from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, that god who doubles the tokens every turn? I don't know that for certain, but I know that it's very interesting to think that they could. It could have all been well thought out and put in already ready to go with maybe some of the original art, maybe some of the new art. We won't know that till later. Remember, it's cat and dog themed. It does mean there won't be some crazy cards added in just because they're going to fit well inside the deck. So either way, I hope you guys can think about this and take this as a point of view in the sense that these products are probably not going away. They see the popularity and the increased popularity of these pre-constructed premium decks. They are going to bring more out. They are probably going to keep on this kind of tribal theme that they're going on. Don't be surprised if you get an elf, if you get a goblin, a dragon deck. Mini-Mox would love that. It would save a lot of time. It would save a lot of effort other than the dual lands we want to have. There are lots of decks they can build. Remember they did the Dragons and Demons Clash decks and stuff back then? You can see these now being broadened out into standalone Commander decks that players can utilize. And if they see it going well, they'll keep going with Universe Beyond type Commander decks like this in the same vein. Don't be surprised if you don't see a Marvel one that's really decent or a really premium priced Marvel one this year. When we have the Marvel Magic coming out, it could be really crazy stuff because they're going to see the sales here that will warrant and justify doing these. And they will still keep it at a limited print run to keep that exclusivity that allows them to tap into the secondary market a year or two from now. Remember, they're not thinking 9, 12, 13 months ahead. They're thinking years ahead. And how these cards will interact and what cards they can create and add to other premium sets to make these cards go up in value. It's just a big, huge game they play, and we get to enjoy the ride, but you need to be aware of where some of these things can lead us, which means buy the ones you enjoy, skip the ones you think aren't worth it, but keep your head on your shoulders and realize that all these cards are going to get reprinted at some point. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for being here on the channel today. A reminder that if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, join the channel, help the channel grow bigger, and of course, I can't wait to see your comments in the comments section. Are you going to be buying these secret layers? Are these things that interest you? Because I got to be honest, they do interest me as a player who's still kind of new to Commander and wants to broaden out into new Commander decks. These offer a great option. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the channel. I'll see you guys soon. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons we have here on the channel each and every day. Because of them, daily uploaded content's made possible, and that's amazing for everybody. So thanks again to my patrons and YouTube membership members. Do you think I didn't notice you there? You at the back. Yeah, you. Coming back for the Ramble Jamble. You waited till the end just so you could hang out with me here. I know. And I'm glad you did. I'm glad you guys are back. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. You are here at the end, my friend. And apparently, Wizards has found the new revenue stream that's going to make them a lot of money. Direct to consumer. And we did talk about this. Remember a couple of months back? Maybe like 20, 30 videos ago, I had a thing saying they are going to find ways of making more money even if they cut off product lines. Because these are simpler, easier to make. Direct to consumer, which means they get all the money. And if we know that sealed boxes are selling less because they're expensive, these products, you don't have to buy tons of boxes to get your Commander deck cards. You can just buy the one package for $150. Shipping's probably free because it's a premium price product. And before you know it, it's in your house. I don't know, but I'll be curious to see how this plays out in the next 24 months, because it's going to start out great. And as with most things, I think Wizards is going to ruin it. I like the idea of having to not build an entire Commander deck. I'd rather take the deck that's pretty well put together, not the cheap, cheesy ones for $30. Those are ones that Minimox gets to try things out. You buy a decent one that's like $150, $200. You now take that, go home, maybe add a dual land or two, tweak little tiny things, but it's pretty much ready to go. I like the idea that I do like building my own entirely. I really do. But this still offers that nice option for players, and I think that's okay. As long as you know what you're walking into and you understand how much money you're spending to buy these things, that's up to you to decide if you want to buy it or not. But I know from experience of everyone I know, the cats and dogs is going to be huge. I have lots of friends who already want to buy it. They're like, oh, can't wait. This is going to be amazing. And then I have other friends who already bought the Angel deck. Now, for us here at the end of the video, the speculation side, I didn't want to cover that in the video because I'd hate to think a speculator is going to sit on the sidelines with 20 boxes of this and not realize profit. But it's likely going to happen because Wizards still can reprint the stuff if they want. There's nothing saying they can't. If they paid for the artwork and own everything and they told you nothing about not reprinting it, all this can come around again. And that's where the mistake can be for a speculator to think, if you want this individual Commander deck, go ahead and buy it. Should you buy 10 and tie up $1,500 hoping to get there? You may make money if you can time it right, but timing is everything. And there's no guarantees, and it's a lot of money to tie up when the market's going to pay you 5, 6, 7% already with no risk. So take that with a grain of salt if you're going to be a person trying to speculate. And if you get speculation in volume, if you're going to buy 10 of them, how are you going to liquidate them? People have to think about these things. But there will be some people who try to speculate. I think that's definitely a strong possibility because they're going to treat it like the old seal boxes. But we know how seal boxes worked out right now. So until that market fully recovers and we see how the new prices work out in the next year or two, I think we have to hang back here. Although I don't expect Wizards to raise the prices much on boxes in the next year or two. Just so you guys know. Interesting, right? Thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks for being here at the end. And yeah, cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs.